Of all the videos I've ever put out on my channel, I think the most important one I ever made was the explanation video I did for Playdead's gaming masterpiece, Inside. The overwhelming amount of attention and praise that video got demonstrated that I could do video game analysis and people would consistently pay attention. If it weren't for that video, I would have never done my analyses of Metal Gear Solid, Silent Hill, Shadow of the Colossus, and more. Given my knack for explaining confusing and mysterious narratives, it probably seems strange that 4 years on, I never did a video on Playdead's other confusing and mysterious game. I am of course talking about Limbo. I think most of my regular viewers would agree that explaining this game would seem like my bread and butter, right? And I agree. The problem is, my regular viewers are also aware that I won't do a video on something unless I can bring something original to the table. In regards to Limbo, I think we're familiar with all the most popular theories. There's the theory that the reason why the kid is in Limbo is because he and his sister fell from a treehouse, which is why we see 2 swarms of flies following the game's end credits, which obviously indicates 2 dead bodies. There's also the theory that the kid died in a car crash, which is why he smashes through a plane of glass at the end of the game. I never wanted to reiterate what everybody else knows, so I never bothered to work on a Limbo video. For some reason though, I always thought that my personal theory regarding Limbo was more mainstream. Obviously, given the title of this video, the theory is that Limbo and Inside occupy the same universe. Though people have suggested this possibility, I found it intriguing that more people haven't pursued this interpretation. It was here that I finally found my reason to talk about this amazing game. Before I lay out this theory, as well as my personal additions to it, I want to emphasize something. Usually, when I provide theories about games, I only do so when I believe there is indisputable evidence to back up my claims. However, Limbo and Inside are not like other games. Their stories and worlds are presented without any dialogue, exclusively with vague and eldritch images. There is almost no supplementary material to give context to either game, making any canonical explanation impossible. Due to this, my theory regarding both of these games will have an element of headcanon to it that my other videos do not. With that said, I will be backing up some of this headcanon with concrete evidence. Let's run down the list of similarities between both games. I think the most obvious similarity between Limbo and Inside is the existence of mind-controlling worms. In Limbo, once a worm latches onto the boy's head, control is wrestled away from the player, and the boy runs in the opposite direction. In Inside, we see worms controlling the actions of a pig, as well as several worms protruding from the bodies of various test subjects. Though the mind-controlling worms serve a purpose in regards to Inside's story, in that the facility seeks to control all of humanity, its relevance to Limbo is in question. Why is a mind-controlling worm a core feature of the boy's afterlife in Limbo? Beyond that, both games feature the same 3 types of locations: a forest, a somewhat decrepit city, and a facility featuring unbelievably sophisticated technology. Speaking of unbelievably sophisticated technology, why do both games feature the use of water and gravity defiance in their puzzles, and why do some of these puzzles seemingly have no technical purpose to the facilities they are housed in, such as the placement of the gun turrets or the saw blades or the flying boxes? A lot of the time, these things only seem to be there for the sake of solving a puzzle. Also, why do both games feature electrical and sonic phenomena? What I am referring to are the sonic booms from Inside and the rain-making machine in Limbo. I cannot help but link these 2 things together given the flashes of light they both produce. As well, like I asked before in regards to the worms, why would the boy's afterlife in Limbo feature one of these machines at all? This really puzzles me because I know a lot of people like to say the phenomena in Limbo are all linked to the boy's personal fears, like the spider, bullying from other kids, kids and the like. But I fail to see how something as fictional and seemingly purposeless as an indoor rain-making machine would be relevant to the boy's life at all. It's as mysterious in its purpose as the source of the sonic boom in Inside. It's as irrelevant to the boy as the mind-controlling worm is. There's one last piece of evidence that I'd like to cite, but before I do, I'd like to repeat the core theory I had in regards to Inside. Basically, the facility the boy travels through is conducting experiments based around mind control. Their end goal is to control the global human population, and they do this somehow via the hive mind. The end of the game seems to be a positive one at first, given the fact that the hive mind escaped the facility and now lies under a reassuring beacon of light. However, I originally proposed that the heavenly light shining on the hive mind was giving us a false sense of security. The evidence I cited for this was the hill diorama, featuring the same hill we tumbled down and the same ray of light. My argument was that because natural light obviously does not work like that, the meatball's final resting place was anticipated by the facility, and they can continue to do experiments in continuous repetition until they reached their end goal. If this doesn't make too much sense, please go watch my original video. I lay it out in much clearer detail there. Now, the reason why I evoke the diorama is because in Limbo, we also see the ending of the game prior to reaching it. We see the boy walk up to his sister, only to be turned away once a worm latches onto his brain. In my opinion, like the ending of Inside, Limbo's ending seems to be manufactured by some sort of unseen malevolent power. Think about it. Why is there a pipe siphoning slugs the first time the boy sees his sister, but the next time we see him, the pipe is gone? When the boy is forced to the left by the slug, and we return to the right, his sister is gone. Given the facility's ability to rotate and defy gravity, it's certainly possible for certain areas to rotate in and out. All of this leads me to think that there is some invisible hand orchestrating everything, like we saw happen with Inside. Maybe that governing force is the same in both games. But how could this be, you might ask? Given that Limbo, the place, not the game, is where somebody supposedly goes when they die, how could the controlling forces of the facility in Inside be the same as the ones in Limbo? I will answer this question in a moment, but first, follow my logic here. As I said with my original theory for Inside, the facility's level of control over humanity is so great that even when we thought we escaped from it, we never actually did. In some way, we are always under its control. We see the facility's control at its apex in regards to the mind control machines, whether it's the wired helmets that attach to people's heads, or the pods that brainwash the humans that walk into them. Once human beings engage with either the helmets or the pods, their minds come under complete control by the facility's network. Now, as for the first of the two possibilities, I must remind all of you that mind control does not necessarily extend solely to one's consciousness. Let us not ignore the fact that there is a conscious side and an unconscious side to the human mind. What if the facility not only found a way to control human consciousness, but unconsciousness as well? Whether it's in regards to religion or psychoanalytic tradition, some believe that when we die, we return to a state of permanent unconsciousness. When we are born, we emerge from a sea of unconsciousness into consciousness, and when we die, we return to that sea. In unconsciousness, we dream, and that dream takes on areas and forms that we recall from our waking life. Whether it's when we are alive and we sleep, or when we die and eternally dream, we see those images. In regards to the boy from Limbo, the images he sees, in my opinion, seem to reflect the visual motifs we see with Inside, the areas, the worms, the water puzzles and gravity puzzles, etc. As for why this is, I offer my theory. Maybe the control the facility had over people's minds was so great that even when they die, they are still somehow under their control. Maybe the facility found some way to maintain control over humanity even when they died, when they're floating in the sea of unconsciousness. This possibility is not as crazy as one might think. We've seen this very concept in movies like Inception and in games like The Evil Within. Given the advanced technology we see in the facility in both Limbo and Inside, being able to control the weather, gravity, the human body, and the mind, it's not so crazy to me that this omnipresent, omnipotent facility could somehow control you beyond the grave. Even if my theory is not correct, I think the concept of being eternally controlled by a malevolent force that you can never escape, not even in death, is about as terrifying as it gets. With the way things are set up in regards to both games, I think it would be worthwhile for Playdead to pursue such an angle. However, if they don't, I think we can all expect their next game to, nonetheless, be as brilliant as the first two, whenever they decide to, release it. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a like. Liking the video and sharing the video helps this channel out a lot. When you do that, it tells the YouTube algorithm that not only this video is worth watching, but other videos on my channel are worth watching. So please consider liking and sharing. Also, if you'd like to see other gaming analysis and speculation, click on either of the two videos you see on screen now. Finally, if you want to find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Discord, all those links are at the bottom of the screen and in the description box below. Until next time, just remember, as always, stay yellow.